Hello, and welcome to I Watched It with My Wife. This is the podcast where my wife Sarah and I watch and review movies. This week, we are actually reviewing the docuseries from the New York Times Presents and the specific episode Framing Britney Spears, talking about the rise, the fall, the resurgence, and then the redisappearance of Britney Spears. She burst on the scene. It covers from her time on Star Search, a little bit of her time on the new Mickey Mouse Club, and then becoming the biggest pop star in the world, and then having the most public breakdown in the world. And then her recovery and the most successful Las Vegas residency of all time. And then she just disappeared. So, Sarah, we anybody who knows you knows that you're a huge Britney Spears fan.
That is true.
So I'm going to step back and let you take the reins for a little bit here and start your analysis, and I will pop in a little bit.
Okay, so first of all, I am a very big Britney fan. Jeremy knows this. I remember seeing the Baby One More Time video when I was in maybe 7th grade or so. And I remember watching that video, and it changed my life. As soon as I saw that video, I knew exactly what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wanted to be Britney. Bought all of her albums. I even had a kid in high school who used to call me Spears. Because I was such a big Britney fan. I followed her Instagram. I've been following her Instagram since like the beginning of Instagram.
Okay.
Or of Britney having an Instagram. And I'm just a big Britney fan. I've always been. Like I said, I've bought all of her CDs, had her poster up on the wall. I don't even know for how long. When I was, I think I had it on my wall till I was like in my 20s or something like that. And so this documentary had so much to unpack for me, as far as I had watched all the, in the early 2000s, all the Britney documentaries and all like the lifestyles of the rich and famous and the Britney behind the scenes and all this stuff. VH1 specials and MTV specials on Britney and everything like that put out through the years. I think I'd seen most of them. And I always loved her, and I always loved watching her. It was this documentary made me very sad, and there's so much to unpack with it, and there's so much to talk about. And the first thing is like this girl. Oh, I have so much to say about it. It's not even funny. I don't even know where to start now. Well, the first thing is this girl started in the spotlight at a very young age, a very like important age, as she was becoming a woman, going in the between phases of being a child, teenager, woman. She started in the spotlight when she was about 12 or so, and hit it really big when she was in her teens. And, it was all about, there was so much tear apart with her whole life. Not just as a girl, but especially as a girl, I think it's even worse. There was tear apart as far as her body. She's too fat. She's too thin. Her boobs are too big. Her boobs are too small. She's too innocent. She's too sexual. Didn't matter what she did. Couldn't get it right. So that was like a big thing to unpack with this. The other thing, like, even like the Ed McMahon, like the Star Search interview that they showed where he's asking her, do you have a boyfriend? She's 10. Like, what the hell? Like, why does she need a boyfriend at 10? We kind of have to stop that stigma. The whole thing about the breast implants too, with that Rolling Stone cover, that was another big thing. I think she was 17 at the time, and she was being asked about her breasts. And when is it ever appropriate to ask about a 17-year-old's breasts? It's not. It's just never is. So there was just all these things that were around that time that were just very but they flew. They were appropriate, and it's kind of disgusting looking back on it now. Maybe like seeing this and like thinking about it, like, oh my God, like, did we really allow this to go on? No wonder why this poor girl had a breakdown. She wasn't allowed to be herself.
Yeah, there was a lot of unnecessary questioning throughout a lot of the interviews you see there from, supposed journalists. A lot of them were not meant to be hard hitting interviews, but some of the questions they asked were completely unnecessary. Um, I partially agree on the Ed McMahon thing. I don't know why you're asking a 10-year-old that, but if somebody pulled up a bunch of clips of Star Search when they had kids, and he tended to ask girls and boys the same questions. So he was at least consistent. So I think they were a little harsh on him for that. And the backlash from this, people are like, well, why didn't we cancel Ed McMahon sooner? I'm like, Ed McMahon was a lovable man who was the spokesman for Publishers Clearinghouse. That's why nobody canceled him. And he was consistent. Uh, um, but yeah, a lot of journalists, interviewers, got way too deep with stuff that, quite frankly, most teenagers probably don't truly understand. They may have superficial understanding of these feelings that people go through anyway. And now you're putting her on a pedestal, on a stage in front of everyone. So what most of us live through in private, she has to live through in public. So it's really, and yes, it's her, part of it was her choice because she went pursuing fame, but she didn't ask them to pursue really inappropriate questionings of a teenager.
Definitely agree. Also, with your point of she pursued fame. Well, yeah, she pursued fame, but why do we have to scrutinize everything somebody does? Like why do we have to do that for people in fame? And you know what I mean? Like we shouldn't be.
We shouldn't. The celebrity culture is incredibly toxic to people that are meant to entertain us.
It's toxic to them, and it's actually toxic to the audience too, to like their fans. Um, because as a young woman who looked up to Britney Spears, anything somebody would say about her body, she's too fat, she's too thin, whatever it was, I could look at my body and say, well, I'm thicker than her, I'm shorter than her, I'm skinnier than her. Like where do I fall in all of this as a human? You know what I mean? Um, so we really have to we have to stop that body shaming in general, and just all that stuff. And she even sings about it in one of her songs. Like she even sings about like, I miss his lifestyles of the rich and famous. Oh my God, that Britney shameless. I miss his, she's too big now, she's too thin. Um, she even sings about it in her song, and it's just, the body shaming, and even like the relationship with Justin, like all the questions around like their sexual habits, their whatever their relationship was. Why does that have to be public?
The one part of it I got from that's what shock jocks do. I understood that. I don't agree with it, but I understood it. Howard Stern has done stuff like that. Don Imus used to do stuff like that. Paul and Al have done stuff like that. It's a shock jock thing. It's annoying and stupid, but it's what they do. I'm more curious as to the line of questioning in the Diane Sawyer interview about that, how Justin's videos had referenced their breakup and, basically intimate, implied that she had cheated on him. I still don't know one way or another whether that's true because she didn't answer the question about cheating, but why was that even up for an interview with Diane Sawyer, who's supposed to actually be a journalist? It's a big difference between a shock jock on the radio asking a stupid question and somebody who's supposed to be a credible journalist asking it.
But even that though, like even with that, like I have to say this, like regardless of whether or not she did or did not cheat on Justin, that it
It's irrelevant to the
it doesn't
interview.
Yeah, exactly. If they're talking about Britney's success as a dancer, singer, and actress, um
Yeah, that's why I don't understand Diane Sawyer's line of questioning there.
yeah.
Like the shock jocks in there, they were interviewing Justin, and it's just like I said, it's what shock jocks do. It's dirty, it's raunchy, but it's what they do for ratings. It's nothing new.
No, it was also a little tasteless of him to go along with it in that sense. However, he did recently apologize for that.
He did recently apologize. And the other thing to point out is he is the same age as Britney Spears. And so you're asking a guy who at the time was what, 19 to between 19 and 23 that there's a lot of things I said at 19 through 23 that I look back on and I cringe at 35 because I'm mature and Justin has matured since then as well. So it's unfair to judge what he says the way he would answer that question today versus how he answered it then.
Well, yes, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that statement, and I also think though, like, you know, like you said though, like the line of questioning, like, I don't know, why are we asking teenagers about their sex life? Like you know what I mean? Like, what, since when do we need to know? I don't know. I don't know. That's the part that's really cringy to me on all of this, and that really bothers me. But that's not the only part that bothered me.
Those are the simple parts.
Yeah, that's the easy stuff to break down. Those are the basic no's. You know, you don't talk about a teenage girl's breast size. You don't talk about a teenage girl's sex life. Like, that's her business. Like, unless you're her doctor or her parent, don't freaking concern yourself with it. That's my opinion on that. But anyway, the next thing to unpack is her breakdown. I really want to talk about that because this is huge. This is the whole point, pretty much. This is the whole premise of why her father has that conservatorship and everything. Okay, so you have a young woman who from the age of like 12 till what was she, 25, 27, something like that?
2008. Let's see. I was 23 in 2008.
Yep.
So, and she was a few years older than us. So she'd have been between
25 and 30.
Yeah, between 25 and 30.
Okay, so you're talking about someone who was in the spotlight from the age they were 12 to who is now between 25 and 30. Cameras in her face every day. People watching everything she does. Everybody making a comment, a judgment, a statement about everything. What her body looked like after childbirth. I remember people criticizing her for that. I remember people criticizing her for how she fed her babies and what she wore and everything. So lots of things like that. Her whole marriage to Kevin Federline was criticized and under a microscope as well.
That was a weird thing
it was
in general,
it
though.
Really was, but it didn't need to be.
It did not need the microscope, but it was just from how their relationship started to, you know, he left his pregnant fiance for her. Yeah.
There was a lot to unpack with that too.
He's a shady dude, but he came off looking pretty good in this documentary.
Well, maybe he's a good father and a responsible father, and maybe he does actually care about Britney in a better way than some other people in her life. But anyway, yeah, I want to get back to, you know, she's going through a very public divorce. She's having her kids taken away. She's, you know, overwhelmed. She's got cameras in her face all the time. She's got people constantly telling her who she's supposed to be according to them. This poor girl has no sense of identity anymore. Of course she's going to have a freaking breakdown. I'm going to have a freaking breakdown if people keep tell me all the time who I'm supposed to be or what I'm supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like I don't blame this girl. Like, I don't blame her. I don't shame her and I don't fault her. This girl needed help. And then the worst thing is when she had her breakdown, instead of like, oh my gosh, this girl needs help. How can we help her? Poor Britney, let's help her. People were just making fun of her left and right.
You know who got wronged by this documentary? is Craig Ferguson, because they did not play his clip after her breakdown in the shaving her head, when he went on there and he spoke candidly about his battle with alcoholism and being publicly humiliated in Great Britain before he became famous worldwide. For those of you who don't know, Craig Ferguson hosted the Late Show on CBS, the one that James Corden hosts now. Craig Ferguson used to host that, and he publicly refused to make jokes at her expense, saying she needs a helping hand here. He referenced his own struggles and how he needed it, and we should stretch it out to him. I mean, they covered Letterman and Leno making jokes at her expense, which is part of what being a late night comic is. But they could have referenced Craig Ferguson's appeal to sensibilities and to mental health advocacy at the time.
Yeah. And yes, for a late night talk show host to make a couple jokes that's fine. But to see her being a butt of jokes on Family Feud and everywhere else is kind of, I don't know. I mean, the poor girl needed help. And I even remember at that time still having my Britney poster up on my door in my bedroom as a 20-something-year-old, my mom being like, oh, you shouldn't idolize her. She's not well. And I'm like, maybe she just needs people to leave her alone a little bit.
She probably needed most people to leave her alone, and she needed the people closest to her to step up, and it sounds like they really didn't do that.
Her father came out of nowhere.
Yeah, he came out of nowhere.
And tried to take over.
Yeah, he came out of nowhere when money was available.
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah. And so the other thing is well, this is leading us to her comeback, but this is when her father took over with the conservatorship. I'm certain they used her kids as collateral to get her to sign. I'm pretty certain based on the documentary.
I was looking up conservatorships and all that, and given what was going on at the time, she was probably going to be entered into a conservatorship anyway. But yeah, the fact they ignored her wishes for her father to not be the conservator is very disturbing. There was going to be a conservator no matter what. Her public actions had led it to where she was going to be placed in a temporary conservatorship. How they got into a permanent one, that one baffled me. And her father getting it and having it for almost 13 years.
But she's still under conservatorship, right?
Yes, she will be under conservatorship for the rest of her life.
But she shouldn't need to be. If she's capable to tour, and you know what I mean? Like if she's capable to put out music and tour and work, she should be able to have some control over her life. She should have consultants in there, but maybe not necessarily there are different levels of
not a full conservatorship, but there are different levels of conservatorship, and she will need some guidance and that. So there will always be a conservator around. And they talked about the Bessemer Trust, that she wanted being the conservator over her finances. And if that's the only place she has a conservatorship at some point, great. She probably does need help with her finances.
I mean, she's worth what, millions upon millions?
Yes, but how many people have been worth millions end up blowing it? So having someone looking out for you is not a bad thing. Having someone
looking out for that financially. But the other thing is like in the conservatorship, there were certain things about how she can wear her hair and stuff like that.
That's bullshit.
That really bothered me. Even if she wants to shave her head again, so fucking what? Seriously, it's her head. She can do what she wants. And there were things about who she can see, who she can't see. It really makes me sad. I feel really bad for Britney. I just do. I watched this documentary and I feel terrible for her.
But the conservatorship had some positives.
She got help.
She came back. She had the most successful residency in Las Vegas ever. And when you think of some of the people that have had residencies in Las Vegas, Celine Dion, the Backstreet Boys, okay, they're magicians, but Siegfried and Roy. These have been Wayne Newton. These are very successful shows, and she had more successful shows than they did.
But she's Britney, bitch. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I absolutely love, again, I love Britney. But the fact that she could do that, like go back and have all the success and stuff like
It
that,
shows
it
enough
shows that
mental competency
to control
to
some
control some
aspects of her
aspect of
life.
life.
Maybe having somebody in there as a consultant isn't a bad idea, but to have one person have sole conservatorship over everything is ridiculous. This poor girl. And there's no doubt in my mind that the dad's in it for the money. And how about the brother? Did you see the interview with her brother?
I saw
where
the
he
interview
was
with her brother.
like, my family is full of strong-minded women, and that's a problem. And then he's like, no, that's not a problem. They should be able to think for themselves, but they really shouldn't. And was basically what he said, right? Like, it was
Yeah.
cringy. I was like, did he really like? Oh, I have a lot of thoughts on that too.
Well, there's a reason why the brother is the one who's not famous.
I just, oh my God, I have so many thoughts.
I didn't even know she had a brother until this
No, I
documentary.
knew she did because I watched all the Britney documentaries back in the day.
I didn't, so.
I just, I can't with that. I hate it when men get mad at women for having strong opinions. That's like, I don't even know. I can't. Like, how dare you be mad at a woman for having an opinion?
You should always love a badass woman.
You can buy a t-shirt that says that, by the way. Shameless plug. But how dare you be mad at a woman for having an opinion? And how dare you, like, say women shouldn't be allowed to have opinions? Like, no. Like, no. That freaking plane don't fly in this neighborhood. Like, no. No.
I'm not arguing.
Exactly, because I'm allowed to have an opinion. And I'm allowed to express it. And I can't. So anyway, I'm now not a fan of Britney's brother or father. I think that they're both kind of but this whole thing brings up the question about, mental illness, recovery from mental illness. At what point do we have, when we have a breakdown, when we go through some type of episode, are we recovered where we can like regain our life and like get ourselves back? Because none of those terms were defined.
No, none of those terms were defined. It showed a massive flaw in the conservatorship system. It's still a great system for when done correctly, but it shows how easy it is to abuse the system.
Yes.
Which we've seen that happen with the elderly as well, which is how the conservatorship system started. If you want to take a closer look at what happened at the end of Stan Lee's life, the man who created all the Marvel superheroes we love, his daughter took complete advantage of him in the final years of his life. It's really sad to see what happened there. Just the same way as Britney's father is taking advantage of her.
Casey Kasem too,
Casey
right?
Casey Kasem.
Isn't he another case of that?
Yeah, I believe so.
Terrible. But and it's not even like, but it is. It's so rare that they use that on a younger person. So when they do, like, maybe we need to have limits set to this. And how much control should there really be?
Like I said, I saw plenty of evidence just in this documentary.
That there's so many flaws. Yeah.
Well, but besides that there's flaws, I saw plenty of evidence in her erratic behavior while she needed help, that she needed a temporary conservatorship. The key word there is temporary.
Yeah. I agree. So, this documentary made me, it broke my heart. It did. Because again, I love Britney, and this was my pick. I know I said that earlier. And I really wanted to see it because it is very relevant. There's a lot of things that are still going on right now involved in this. And I don't know, I just really wanted to see it. I knew that there was going to be a lot to unpack with it. And
if you haven't seen it, it is worth the watch. It is on Hulu without commercials, so yay. I believe the New York Times Presents is a series that airs on FX, if you have that. But like I said, we watched it on Hulu. It is I am interested to see some of the other documentaries in this series now.
We could do a whole podcast on that, I bet.
I bet you we could. Maybe we'll make it a
bonus content.
Bonus content, yeah.
Ooh.
But that's neither here nor there. We did not have a snack with Sarah. We did not have a snack during this thing.
It was what, like an hour long?
It was an hour and 15 minutes long, and I'm reluctant to even give a rating for it because of the content of this.
Yeah, it's not. I feel like you can't. Well, I mean, as far as like,
it's not like it's a well done documentary that I admittedly going in was afraid was going to be a hit piece. That was my concern when she picked this.
Yeah, you were reluctant to watch it. You almost protested me on it.
No, I wasn't protesting watching it so much as protesting doing a podcast on it, because too many of these documentaries that want to paint someone in a good light become hit pieces on someone else, and I was afraid of that. And while certainly some people don't come off looking good, most of it is because of their own actions and not because of the documentary. I do think that they were a little harsh on Ed McMahon, but because he was consistent in doing that with boys and girls. But
well, they only brought him up for like that one clip.
It's one of those where I don't think they needed to bring up Ed McMahon at all.
Oh,
it was.
Yeah, but
I get the point that girls get a lot of questions about boys, and it's a valid point. The problem being is that they chose someone who consistently asked boys similar questions. So there are plenty of other case studies of people. They probably didn't have Britney Spears to go off of. They only had Ed McMahon talking to Britney Spears, of people only doing it to girls. But yeah, so that's this week's episode. We're not gonna rate this. The content is too serious for us to even try to rate it.
Yeah, I will suggest watching it though.
It is absolutely worth a watch on FX or Hulu.
Definitely, especially if you're like a Britney fan or you're into early 2000s nostalgia, because that was just your time. It's worth watching. I thought it was really good, and it did touch on some things, and it was a reminder of the culture then versus the culture now, with mental health and even like celebrity culture. It's kind of disgusting. So with that, we'll wrap up this episode.
All right. We will be back in 2 weeks with another review. We haven't picked the movie yet, but you'll find out when it airs. All right. Bye.